Hello, and welcome to POMA Does, a podcast produced by the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association. We provide a voice for osteopathic medicine and share insights on issues important to osteopathic physicians, residents, and students, as well as those who embrace the osteopathic philosophy. POMA's mission is to promote the distinctive philosophy and practice of osteopathic medicine for our patients, our members, and the communities we serve. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association's podcast, POMA Does. Today, I am the host, Tyler Burt, the Senior Director of Government Affairs for the Pennsylvania Osteopathic Medical Association, and I'm joined by Dr. Valeri Roth. Dr. Roth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dr. Valeri Roth. I'm an otolaryngologist / facial plastics surgeon. I graduated from PCOM in 92 and came back home to Western Pennsylvania. I was employed for a short period of time and had an independent practice for about 12 years now. I work at 3 local hospitals, and I'm the chief of surgery at Sharon Regional.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Roth, the reason you're on today is to talk about the effects that private equity have on our healthcare system. As you mentioned, you are part of the Sharon Regional Hospital, and they have just gone through what is likely one of the largest headaches that a hospital or health system could go through. Do you want to give our viewers just a little bit of an understanding of what that did to not only the physicians, but our patients as well?
Sure. So a little history here is that Sharon Regional was started back in the 1800s as a community hospital. And then about 2014, due to whatever financial issues were occurring, the hospital sold to a private equity group called CHS, and they went from a nonprofit status to for-profit. After a couple of years slashing and cutting, CHS was not having success here, so they then sold to another private equity group called Steward. They were originally out of Boston and eventually put their headquarters down in Dallas. They grew, I believe, too quickly, and they couldn't support all the growth that they were doing. They were buying a lot of hospitals, and Sharon Regional really held its own. I would keep tabs on our bottom line, and as a local entity, we were in the black, but because of being part of this larger hospital group, our profits were then taken from us and used for other hospital issues. One of the other things that occurred when this purchase happened was that our hospital buildings were sold to another party called MPT, Medical Properties Trust. MPT is a $25 billion company that has one job and one job only, and that is to come into ailing hospital systems, buy their buildings so that they can infuse some cash flow into the hospitals. And that's what they did at Sharon. And part of the problem is on the backside, they have unreasonably high rent charges that they charge the hospital back, which makes it unsustainable long term, especially with multiple facilities. So that's what happened with Sharon Regional. But the entire storage system collapsed and declared bankruptcy. Our first line of salvation was Meadville Medical Center, which is not far from us. It's a successful small hospital that understands the economics of practicing in Western Pennsylvania, rural Western Pennsylvania. So we were pretty excited to partner up with them. I don't know if this is too many details.
No, this is perfect. I think from here, it might be helpful to talk about during the period of time when the hospital was closed, what that meant for the community.
The deal with Meadville did not go through, so we then became an up-for-grabs hospital, and a brand new hospital system trying to buy hospitals to help them called Tenor was awarded the contract to purchase Sharon Regional. However, because of timing, the hospital actually had to shut its doors. We were closed for 70 days. And here in the community, there's just so many things that occurred because of the lack of healthcare in this area. One thing is Sharon Regional has a very robust cardiology program. And that went from taking patients who would walk in having a heart attack and getting them up to the cath lab in 30 minutes to open up vessels to now not even having a facility where you could send them. We actually had several people in our community die because they did not have access to cardiac care in a timely fashion. We also had a very robust psychiatric program, our behavioral health. We have one of the few inpatient pediatric programs. We get referrals all the way from Philadelphia, Wilkes-Barre, etc. So you kind of take for granted the mental health component until maybe you have a child who's in crisis and you have nowhere to turn. The UPMC system did referrals to our pediatric psych program. People around here do not necessarily have the financial means to drive to Pittsburgh, which is the UPMC answer to everything. Just go down to Pittsburgh for your health care. They also don't necessarily have an extra 3 hours to spend commuting to the city, nor the wherewithal to deal with city driving. So there's a lot of people, actually, they kind of stepped out of getting any kind of health care for a while. A lot of pulmonary patients. So I'd kind of catch them on the backside because of my overlap with ENT. There's quite a few pulmonary patients that ended up in bad places because of it. The ER waits were like 12 hours.
It sounds like this closure was a dramatic and catastrophic event for your community. And as we look to the future, it is unfortunate that more and more of these are seemingly on the horizon. Out in Delaware County, we have Crozer, who's currently in the battle to stay open. But Dr. Roth, with the recognition that you are very busy and you do have patients coming in the next few minutes, I do just want to say thank you very much. And thank you and all of your physician advocates who went to battle for your patients and your profession. So thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, Tyler.
I do just want to end the podcast by talking a little bit of what's happening in Harrisburg and provide an update across the state. So in Harrisburg in January, Governor Shapiro announced that he would like to take steps to remove private equity from the hospitals and health systems across Pennsylvania. One of the steps that we have seen introduced last year and get a little bit of motion would be to give the Attorney General more oversight. POMA is continuing to watch that legislation, and as it moves, we will keep you updated. Another issue that we do want to flag is that since the time of recording with Dr. Roth, the Crozer Health System in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, has also announced bankruptcy. And so what happened out in Sharon Regional is now happening in Delaware County. And much like the Sharon Regional, we're going to have patients who are left in the lurch without proper access to emergency services. And there are massive impacts to not only patients, but communities when these hospitals close. So this is a very big issue and something, unfortunately, that's becoming more and more common. So POMA is currently evaluating how we can be most helpful to our members during this situation and like situations. We would like to remind everyone that POMA does stand with all physicians, providers, and employees in these situations as they work through the delicate negotiations if a rectification could be put in place. One thing that I do want to put out there as a resource to anyone who is finding themselves in this position, you can go to the Pennsylvania Department of Insurance, and they have a page devoted to explaining where you can get tail coverage in the event of a bankruptcy, and so that it will try and help some of physicians to make sure that they're covered when the worst case scenario happens.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of POMA Does. Be sure to subscribe to POMA Does wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tell your friends and colleagues to tune in. Learn more about osteopathic medicine and POMA on our webpage, www.poma.org, and join the conversation on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Or email us at poma@poma.org. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time for another edition of POMA Does.